We were able to just, bounce ideas off of each other and go, I want to do this. Oh, well, what about this? Well, let's do this. And we talked about, all the different things that we could bring to it, to whereas if you did it by yourself or with one or two people, you wouldn't have gotten the magnitude of this unit as it was.
It took us, we started at about 8. It took us about 3 hours to do this whole section, and then we broke it up so each person had a different part to do, and when we come back together every Tuesday and work for about 45 minutes on what's the next piece that we need to have done. So we broke it into chunks, so it really wasn't, it was just meeting consistently is what made the difference for us, and then being able to depend on each other to do their part. We all had to buy in, we all had to have that relationship and be safe with each other, to be able to say, listen, I know this was my part and I'm almost finished with it and I'll have it to you tomorrow. We really had to trust each other to do that. And then in the classroom, it didn't take more time. It was still our regular math time and our regular social studies time. We didn't have to do any fancy finagling of the schedule or change anything that way. It really, we fit it into our boundaries that we already had. So.
We started with the schedules just to really help the students better manage their time.
We used to do like stations where we had a group and we changed to stations every 10-15 minutes, and that wasn't really so useful because some people could finish things on different or some people could finish things faster than other people.
Like we used to do stations where our teacher put us in groups and we went around and we went from group to group, and she was kind of just telling us where to go, but now with stations we can kind of pick where we want to do and when we want to put in the time slot.
The students and I worked together at what kind of time increments we were going to put on our schedule so that they could divide their time, and they felt like 10 minutes was an easy number that they could easily divide and adjust their day around.
We have an hour each day to do our stations that we need to, and I usually leave 25 minutes for most things or more.
We clip our schedule to the front of our folder, and then we have this is my book response, and we do design a cover and we put all of our work in there. And then I have fluency, this is grammar, and we just keep our work that we've done in this folder that we've done, that we've had done on the front, and so then at the end of the week we staple it all together and we turn it into the drawer.
If they know that they have to leave class for a special group that they have, they pencil that in, and it's just really helped them be accountable for their own learning.
With stations, kids were missing the work, they had to leave, so they missed the work. But since we switched to these, they can fit in all their work, so they aren't missing anything.
They get to decide how much time they think they need for each activity, and they can order them. They can do the things they like the most first, or they can save those things for the end.
I usually do the fun stuff first and do the not so fun stuff last or in the middle.
I still have control over what it is that they're focusing on, but they get the option of arranging their time.
And I always put the work I need to get done first, so I get that done, and then the last 2 days I put things like silent sustained reading and finish it up, so I make sure I have all my work done and I don't wait till the end.
And if it's something that they want to spend more time on or less time on, they have that ability and that freedom within the schedule.
We get time on Friday to do finish up whatever we want.
I'm also able to schedule in a time to conference with each student each week.
And we just talk about what we've done that week and what we are going to plan on do with cafe and things like that. And so we just check up with all of our work that we've done, and she makes sure that everything's going good.
And I really have a good grasp on where everybody is in the classroom. And I feel like as a teacher, it's made me a lot more competent in knowing what their progress really looks like.
I think it helps because I know when I need to get my work done, and like when I think it helps me a lot because like if I do vocab first, I like do as many minutes as I need because everyone works at a different pace, and I think that it really helps me because if I'm like rushing my work, I don't think I'm learning as much. But now since we can like put our own time in it, like I feel like I can take my time to learn but make sure I get everything done. So
letting the children take ownership of their schedules as a teacher is a little iffy because I think that as teachers a lot of times we're used to being the person in control. I have a few students that do have a hard time staying on task, and they'll come to me and say, you know, I don't have anything finished and it's Tuesday and I haven't completed anything. And so we'll sit down and talk about, well, what's keeping you from getting to your task? What's happening? And we can decide maybe you need to sit at another table while you're working, or what adjustments can we make? And they always turn it around.
I don't have to work at the same pace, try to keep up with other people.
we like can't always have a teacher walking around and like telling us what to do and things. So I think this prepares us for like when we get older.
But they've all done a great job. It's been amazing. I've been so pleasantly surprised at how well they stay on task. It's been great.
My name's Casey, and I'm in the 5th grade, and we did Imagineering the Perfect, and we're trying to make our class as perfect as we can. So we made these charts that like it looks like we're looking at the speaker if there's someone up here explaining, or like we're not like talking or being rude, and we're quiet if the teacher is talking. And if we're doing group work, it's supposed to be like we're quiet, but we can still talk to each other, so we won't disrupt the class next door. And if she's talking and giving us a lesson, we're quiet, and it feels like everything's going your way because we're trying to make it perfect for us, and it's just everything's going the way you want it to be.
Hi, my name is Brooke, and I'm in 5th grade. This is about drivers and preventers. Some of the preventers are the things that are going to keep us from being engaged in our learning, and the drivers are going to push us towards being engaged. Like if the lesson is exciting and everybody's quiet around you, we're probably going to be more engaged in our learning, and because we'll enjoy it more, and we'll be really focused on that. And the preventers, like the lesson is boring, or if you're really tired, I think it really helps us when we look at it, because some of these things we can prevent. Like if we're tired or we're feeling jealous, we just need to keep working as hard as we can so we can get our work done.
Hi, I'm David Haig. I'm in a 5th grade class at Parkside Elementary. I'm here to tell you about we class did a nominal group technique, and I'm here to tell you how we did it. Well, we made a list of the things that were preventing us from learning and being engaged. So we decided to see which ones were the most preventing. So we did a vote on which one was the most preventing. Each person voted for the first most most preventing preventer, and second and third. And then we listed them here, and then the first place got 3 points, the second place got 2, and the third place got 1, and we added up all the scores to get a number. And the 4 top numbers, we were gonna see what we could do to prevent those preventers from happening.
Hi, I'm Amber Goshen. I'm going to be talking about interrelationship digraph and what was the root cause of our preventers. We started out with zoning out, and we knew that the boring lesson was causing us to zone out. And then we looked at being tired, and when you're tired, it made you zone out. And then also talking to friends was zoning out. Okay. And then we looked at boring lesson, and boring lesson was causing us to zone out. and friends talking and being tired. So we put a 3 to make them all be going out and to be causing all this. So we figured out that that was probably our cause. But then we went and we looked at friends talking, and when we were talking to friends, we were zoning out. We were also being tired. But the boring lesson was causing us to talk to the friends. So we made our little caterpillar graph. What will we work on first is what we needed to figure out. Since 3 was with boring lesson was our first preventer, and we needed to get rid of that one, since that one was causing. So we should work on trying to be a more exciting lesson. And once we got that done, we just need to think about friends talking. And then once we had that down, being tired, and then zoning out. That's it.
One of the areas I specifically want to point out as a systems improvement is elementary science.
Initially, as we kind of looked at our current situation, it was science not being taught or learned on a consistent basis throughout the district.
There was a presentation on some state data that had come out, and our science scores just weren't where they needed to be. And a board member looked at our science coordinator and said, what can we do? What can we as a board do to support you in improving student learning?
We did some study about what was happening in some other places. What was the research out there about science ed and science teaching and learning? And through that and through the study we did of our own data and our situation here, we developed this plan. We looked at 5 areas of improvement.
Linda developed, from that conversation, she developed a 5-year plan along with involving teachers and other folks who work closely with science, and said, here's what we need to do. We're going to do hands-on science from a system level. We're going to guarantee that our science curriculum is implemented with fidelity district-wide.
We made ourselves a model of a wheel to think about moving forward, and those being spokes on the wheel. In the center of our wheel was inquiry, focusing on inquiry. We knew if we didn't work in all those areas, that we really wouldn't be able to move forward. So you can have the best curriculum in the world, but if you don't have the instruction that goes along with that, or you don't have the materials that can support that, teachers don't have the understandings that they need to be able to be effective in their teaching, it's just not going to move forward. So we really had to look at all of those areas at the same time.
Now, at the time, we probably had 15, 16 elementary schools. And so you multiply 6th grade levels times 15 elementary schools, you've got 90 different classrooms. And Linda's dream was that in each one of those classrooms, kids were going to be hands-on, in the dirt, playing with worms, growing, I have no idea, crazy stuff, building models, shooting things. I mean, that it was all going to be hands-on, and that as a result of that quality instruction, as a result of students being active in their learning, actively engaged in their learning, owning their learning through science journals, through that quality instruction, that we were going to see scores rise.
Since we had already identified our current situation, which is the first part of kind of looking at a storyboard, is where are we now? And then we took our 5 areas and we started with just the bone diagram. And we took a look at where are we now, and then where do we want to be, and we did look at a 5-year out mark because we felt like that was it was going to take that long to really change this system in the way that we wanted to, since we were looking at a complete evolution. We had all the input, but we had to lay it out to where we could really look at what we needed to do. So I tend to be a little bit linear in nature, and since that was kind of my area, I made a big grid. And so that's been kind of our map, our plan. And we have mapped out in each of the 5 areas and in each of the years, these are some of the actions that we're going to be taking. We developed a group we call the Science Leadership Team with representatives from all parts of our district because the change we made affected everything. It affected Copy Center and Plant Services, and we had to have more space and just everything, every department. So we put together some key people from those departments, and we've had that team that advises us along the way. We developed units of instruction and used the research about less is more, trying to narrow down and be able to go in depth on a topic. And that's where we focused our training. But we also developed kits of materials and then quite a bit of structure to go along to help teachers with our curriculum documents. But our kits of materials, they really have, they include everything except water that the teacher needs. Living things, also we have critters that are also a part of this. So we developed a distribution for these tubs of materials, and we started with 1 the first year, 1 per grade level. Now we have our own warehouse that we house our materials, and we have a full-time materials manager and 2 half-time folks and a core of temps that put those together, send them out to campuses. They stay on campus for 7 weeks. They come back in. They're refurbished, completely put back together and back into rotation to go out the next 9 weeks to different campuses. It's more difficult to provide those engaging experiences than to get the science book out and read about science, which is also okay, but not the same as science. So we remove that barrier. You have the materials, and then we're working, but it's always, we'll always have this work to the training aspect, because we find the complexity growing. Our standards are have a little bit higher rigor now, so we're making modifications, and our teachers and students are ready for more, and not without quite a few bumps. And as you might expect, the critters, they can provide lots of problems, but we're committed to that. We're committed to that. Students need those experiences. We will have those experiences for students at Leander ISD.
There were some skeptics that said, well, that'll be fun, but will it really have an impact on student scores?
And in 2003, we had 55% of our students met standard on the test. And that was looking at a 75% correct standard. The state actually phased that in, but we always used the 75% so that we could compare apples to apples along the way. So we that's where we started, at 55%. We, along the way, have built up every year. It's a solid, very solid improvement. Last year, 93% of our students met standard. 55% are commended. So we went from 55% just meeting the standard to 55% being commended.
At the end of the day, the vision is, yeah, let's get the scores. But the vision is to ensure that students exit our system with the same passion for learning they had when they entered our system, without economics determining their success. That's another key point in this. This great quality instruction levels the playing field. And suddenly, it doesn't matter, rich or poor, whatever, you're hands-on, you're owning your learning, everyone's engaged in the same sort of thing. Well, guess what? We've seen our scores rise, and we've seen the gap narrow between our economically disadvantaged students and our non-economically disadvantaged students at the same time. And so, but again, whatever, those are just the scores. The quality of the instruction, the excitement for science that we have in our elementary classrooms is a sight to behold. It is an absolute joy, as just an outside observer, to walk into our classrooms and see what's going on in those science classrooms. And I attribute it largely to a systems change based on looking at some data and the board saying, what can we do to help? And then how that has all filtered throughout our entire system.
We took a teacher from every grade level team, fine arts, special programs, and pulled them all together to start looking at the things we want to do at Parkside. To do that first, we created an affinity where we thought about all the things we wanted to make sure were important to us as we met. Created our expectations or our code of conduct that we want to make sure we bring to the table every time we meet, that these things would be important. From there, we did a consensogram of how committed we were to that code of conduct, and it was unanimous. And then we thought about really what is the role of a leadership team? What is our purpose? What is our vision going to be? We want to make sure that we were going to make our school best for the world. The teacher leaders really wanted to make sure they were a filter to help protect teachers from all the information, but making sure they got what was needed and also to be their voice and representing their teams at a meeting. They wanted to be a change agent to make students focus on learning. They wanted to teach kids to learn to think. They wanted kids to be prepared for life. They want kids to be contributors for the students to contribute to the world. And we want to be part of the community-based team, the site-based. That was a commitment that they were making to meet often. When you start a leadership team, or every summer or in the spring, you take time to start analyzing your campus data. We only had 1 year of campus data, and we had some discussions on it, and that would normally drive what your campus improvement plan needs to be. But with 1 year of data, all of our children came from 20 different elementary schools. So there wasn't a lot of foundation to say what needed to be improved because we didn't have enough system or historical data to do anything to change. Monta Aiken came and visited with us about if you were to look at the Leander learning model, in the center is the focus on student learning. If you were to jump through that, what would you see the students doing? Like in the learner engagement piece of the model, teachers do a lot to get kids engaged, but what does the learner need to do to get engaged? They get to make a choice. I can listen and participate or not. I can go to a learning, I can be making my grocery list, or I can get something out of it. So it doesn't matter always what the teacher's doing, how does the child start to take responsibility for their own engagement and their own learning? And we took it back to the team, talked about it, and they were excited and on board, and we started to make a plan to take it to the staff.
As a team, we had met and we had devised what we wanted to do with our program and knew exactly where we were going, and we were so excited. But then we wanted to make sure that we had the buy-in of everybody on our staff. So what we did was we made a list of the traits that we were going to use with the program, and we had them all listed out, and we wanted to show that the teachers are already doing so many of those things in the classroom. So whatever we did, we didn't want them to think it was just one more thing that they were going to have to do. We wanted them to see that we're already doing these things. So we put them all out, and we had the teachers hot dot, and when they hot dotted, we saw everything they were already doing. They could think. They sat and visited at tables, and they made examples, and we have all the copies of the things that they knew they were already doing on each one of these traits. When you looked at it that way, then everybody bought in, and we had everybody decided that this was a great program when they were excited, and we got the enthusiasm of the staff. We decided that we wanted the students to have something that they could look at, something that they would know for their traits, the things that they were going to be doing for those things. And we thought they needed to be chunked. They needed to be something in some visual that the students would be able to look at and remember the traits and know them, all know them. So we went through lots of different versions. We spent hours looking at, we thought that like a little stick person, a little man would be really good. So we tried to group them into think and act and share. We put them in, this is the action, this were the thoughts. they all overlap each other way too much. So we decided we couldn't really do it that way. But that idea of using, we have the traits drawn out, the idea of using the man we liked that idea. But this really wasn't exactly what we wanted. So that was step one. And then we kept going.
Next, what we did was we completed a Lotus, and we talked about what was important to the program and everything that we wanted to incorporate in order to move forward. We decided on determining an icon for the students. We also decided on how we wanted to roll it out and ideas to help support the teachers implement the program. We also worked on possibly creating a definition for each trait for the students and how we were going to share with the community and with the teachers. We also worked on brainstorming hooks and how we were going to roll these out to the students. We also worked on the graphic organizer and the model for our program. Next, what we did was we came up with a sketch of the scholar, and we really wanted it to be something that all the students could relate to. And so we came up with a rough sketch of our scholar, and the learning model that we have in the district is round, so we wanted to kind of keep that going. Actually, what we did was we took our colors from our learning model and we just picked a vibrant color. So it kind of molded in that way. And then what we did was we drew him in a, just sketched him out, and then we put him onto the computer and he came to life and he was born. Next, what we did was we thought it was really important that we defined what a scholar was, and we really toyed with this because we didn't want to give it to the students. We wanted them to kind of come up with it on their own, but then we thought about it and we thought we need to come up with some kind of guide to what our goal is. So finally, with Leadership Committee, we came up with a scholar is a learner and someone who seeks knowledge.
How are we going to introduce this scholar to our parents, to our children, and start to lay the foundation so then we could later start to introduce the scholar traits? So we planned lessons and assemblies and activities to do. We worked on all different kinds of timelines, who was going to do what, who was going to go where, and who would own it. They really were getting proficient then at dividing out these tasks and going out, doing them, getting it done, and bringing it back together. And at this time, we created a day where we did an assembly with a scholar video that the teacher leadership team created. They spent their Thanksgiving asking people, I'm a scholar, and it was really exciting. And we showed it to the kids, and then they left there with a scholar hat and a diploma. And then they went to the classroom, and there were all these follow-up activities that the leadership team had created for them to do in their rooms all day to break it down to the kinder level to the 5th grade level about what a scholar is. And then at the end of the day, they put their hats back on, along with the bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and everybody. They exited the school, all to the buses, to the parent pickup, with their scholar hats on, and that was our communication to the parents that this model is being launched. And then we started to go into working on